Hello everyone, Ember Power here, and welcome back to a new video. In this one, I'm going to be going over the best new cards from Scarlet and Violet for GLC. So with the new update, I'll be ranking each type and the new trainers, ranking them in order. Of course, this order is officially my opinion. Of course, it's a personal opinion. The main point of the video is to showcase the best new cards for each type. So kind of like, don't view it as I think this type wins this set or whatever. This is just really just a way of ranking them basically and showing off the best new cards. Also, I kind of forgot about colors types. In all fairness, there wasn't really much to talk about in terms of new colors Pokemon. I think the biggest one is maybe this Squirvet over here, which has the ability Hidey Hole, which will allow you, says, once during your turn, you may use this ability, shuffle your hand, put them to the bottom of your deck, then draw a card. And that's it for colors types. I really don't think there's anything else. There might have been a Squawkabilly that was like okay, but realistically, I don't think colors are doing very well with this update. But having said that, we best get going. And in the number 10 spot, we have grass types. So Arboliva, the olive. I'm just going to say olive. These two olives do have the ability fill oil that says once when you place Pokemon with your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon, you may heal all damage from one of your Pokemon. It's an okay ability because like it's something that grass don't really have right now, I'd say, is they don't have this like stage 2 that can heal everything. Funnily enough though, GLC, you're kind of like this will face competition, I should say, from other good stage 2s that are grass types, and it's kind of why grass types are so low on this list. However, Dolive having the pretty useful attack Oil Pour is definitely quite appealing, and Solar Beam doing a rather respectable 150 is actually surprisingly strong for like a utility support Pokemon like this, so I definitely don't hate this addition to GLC. I just think it's, fairly underwhelming compared to some of the other ones that we're going to look at. So in number 9th place, we have the fire types. We do have the Armor Edge with the ability Fire Alarm. It says, often use a light during your turn, you may move a fire energy card attached to one of your bench Pokemon to your active. It's definitely an okay ability when you have Magma Basin in the format. There's also this new Torkoal, which for 1 fire and 2 colors, you flip a coin for each fire energy attached to Torkoal and it does 80 damage for each one. So if you have like the Charizard that makes the fire energy worth 2 fire energy instead, and you have the Emboar to accelerate any amount of fire energy as you like from your hand, then this Torkoal honestly isn't that bad, especially when you only need like 2 heads to knock out most stage 2. So I definitely like this Torkoal Armor Edge combination. Seems pretty strong overall. Then in 8th position, we have water types. Doing pretty well, honestly. I kind of wanted to put water types a bit higher in the end, but I couldn't really justify it. Partly because it's basically just a lot of super niche cards that are kind of like okay at best, really. We have a Slowbro with Strange Behavior, which just isn't really as good as a Slowbro from Pokemon Go. It does have the interesting ability as long as you like during a turn, as often as you like, I should say. You may move the damage counter from one of your Pokemon to Slowbro. Basically means you can heal up to 90 damage from your Pokemon, which is really cool. Also gives you a bit of protection against spread, I guess, but Slowbro will obviously be a little bit easier to KO at that point. We also have a new Floatzel, I believe his name is, that does 50 damage and then 20 more for each water energy attached to him. So it's another one of these like Hydro Pump style attackers. I think there's just better stage 1s to attack with, but it is an option. We also have Trio, which with the infamous attack Sea Tunneling, flip 3 coins for each heads, discard the top 3 cards of your opponent's deck. So it's just a nice mill effect to have in a water control deck. So I think there is going to be a couple of maybe like water control decks that could come out of this because we already have a Floatzel that retrieves items. We already have a Seeking that discards energy. We might see a water type control deck pop up in GLC, which would be pretty cool. We also have a Tatsugiri, which I did think was worth mentioning because of the attack preparations. Search your deck for 2 basic water energy, attach them to one of your basic Pokemon. It is decent for charging up something like a Kyogre or, basic that you're hoping to evolve with a lot of energy on, like this Satitan on the right here. So I don't think Tatsugiri is the worst, especially not when Furiso Girl is like such a decent card that's probably a one-of in most GLC decks. So honestly, I don't mind Tatsugiri, I think it's pretty solid. Then we have this Satitan on the far right here, 180 HP, so it is pretty bulky. Not quite as bulky as the Wailord from Silver Tempest, but still pretty bulky. For 1 water, 2 colors, does 200 damage, and it does 20 less for each damage counter on it. But I do think for not 3 colors, but for 3 energy, that's still very efficient damage. And as long as you can get at least one hit KO with this against really bulky Pokemon, that could be really good. So I do like Satitan in that regard. At 7th type, we have Psychic types, which does mean that we get a new Shuppet. We have a Shuppet with Wrapped in Shadows, does 10 damage, flip a coin of heads during your opponent's next turn. They can't play any items. Could be pretty annoying. There's also like several Bonnettes that are moderately playable, so it's just a nice Shuppet to have. We also have a Graveyard and a Houndstone, which I think you'd have to kind of build a deck around this to get the most value out of it. Does 10 damage for each psychic Pokemon you discard pile. Just a nice 1-1 line, maybe to swing in the late game, could be pretty decent after you've discarded a lot of psychic Pokemon. We also have a new Klefki and a new Drifloon. Klefki with your very annoying ability Prank Lock, it's supposed to be pretty decent in Standard. I do think it's also decent in GLC, definitely shuts off a lot of stuff like Spiritomb, so yeah, I could definitely see Klefki being really annoying. We also have a Drifloon that does 30 damage for each damage counter on this Pokemon, so if your opponent's like attacking GLC is a bit slower, so like their active Pokemon isn't maybe doing a lot of damage and they're just doing like chip spread damage, then Drifloon could be a very potent attacker to use. But yeah, pretty decent psychic types. In 6th place, I actually ranked lightning types. I think I should have maybe put these in 7th place and moved the psychic types up a notch, but it's what it is now. Lightning types do gain the infamous item Electricity Generator, which will allow you to accelerate some more lightning energy, which is obviously really, really good. Pachirisu is decent, I would say. Group Discharge is just like a pretty efficient attack, 10 damage and 20 more for each of your bench lightning Pokemon. You can only play lightning Pokemon in your deck, of course, in GLC, so having this Group Discharge move is pretty decent. We also have the Pawmot here looking very different because this was from, I think it's a pre-release promo initial reveal, so that's kind of like why it looks so different. But it does have the nice ability Electrogenesis, can do up to 230 damage. Seems really solid, honestly. The Pawmot has free retreat as well, so I definitely don't hate this Pawmot. I think it's okay as far as lightning types go, and if you are certainly looking to play Pawmot in your GLC deck, I don't think it's going to hurt you too much, basically. Then at 5th type, we have a whole bunch of dark types that have not been translated yet because they're all kind of like mediocre to bad in Standard, I guess. We have a Seviper that does 60 damage and 120 more if your opponent's active is already poisoned, but its first attack also does poison. And that's an awful lot of damage, and there is already a lot of good poison type moves, or good poison type attackers, I should say. There's like a Toxicroak that increases poison damage. There's also the Galarian Weezing, more infamous one, that does 4 points of poison damage. So as long as you can get some early poison damage, then of course 180 is definitely going to be one at killing anything in GLC, so I definitely like the Seviper. There's also this new Muk, which is facing pretty stiff competition from some better Dark-type Muks, but this one does have the ability that says when your opponent's active Pokemon is poisoned, that effect is not removed when they evolve or de-evolve. So if you combine this with Galarian Weezing to place 4 points of poison damage, they will not be able to heal that off when they evolve, so that seems pretty solid overall. And then King Gambit says each of your basic Pokemon do plus 30. I know there is some like other stage 2 dark types that you probably want to play, like Hydreigon, but to be honest, I do think this is really solid when we have, very efficient dark type attackers like the Hoopa from Darkness Ablaze, also the Spiritomb from Broken Bonds. So I definitely think there's a chance for King Gambit to create like a basic dark type deck that just wants to be very high damage output. So yeah, darkness type's pretty solid, I would say. In 4th place, I ranked metal types, and even though they only get one new great card in my opinion, I think this is such a huge buff for metal types. Rumbling Engine, you must discard an energy card from your hand in order to use ability. Once during your turn, you may draw until you have 6 cards in your hand. Just a really strong effect, because metal types, as far as I'm aware, don't actually have a signature draw engine. So now that they have one, it's really cool. Naturally, you want to be playing a lot of energy because of the Metal Saucer, as well as you can get them back with Mount Coronet and stuff like Magenzone to accelerate all the energy on the board. So Rev Room, definitely a huge upgrade, I'd say, for metal types, and that's kind of like why it's in the 4th place. Then for 3rd place, I would say fighting types are definitely eating pretty with this set. The new Lucario, Vengeful Knuckles, does 30, then 120 more if any of your fighting Pokemon were knocked out during the last turn. Super efficient attack, 150 for a single energy is very strong. We also have Crocodile with Ferocious Bite. There could be a little bit of control aspect there, but of course there is already an Earthquake deck in fighting GLC, and it does 180 damage and then 30 to each of your bench Pokemon. Yes, that effect is kind of problematic if you're not really building around it, but 180 is obviously just an awful lot of damage to be throwing out in GLC, so I definitely like this Crocodile. Also the new Hawlucha, maybe a little bit more niche in GLC than it will be in Standard, but Flying Entry to allowing you to play some damage counters could set up some chaos potentially, so I definitely don't hate the addition of Hawlucha. Rock Chestplate is a really big one. fighting Pokemon this card is attached to takes 30 less. Just means you'll have another option to take even less damage and become even more tanky with stuff like Stone Fighting Energy, so definitely anticipating this one to be pretty good. And then of course we have the new Annihilate, which has two very efficient attacks. Rage Fist does 70 damage for each prize card your opponent's taken, so late game this is going to be doing like 280 damage plus. And then the attack Dynamite Punch for 2 fighting does 170, and then it also does 50 to itself. So Annihilate is either really good and efficient in the early game or just really powerful and 1-hit KO in the late game, so very, very strong stage 2 in my opinion. So in second place is going to have to be the trainers. We have Arven, Defiant Band, Messagoza, and Beach Court. I think Arven's just a really, really solid one. Being able to tutor out an item card in a format that only really has Skylar to do it is obviously really cool. We do have like greens, I guess, to search for items, but just being able to use Arven seems a lot more efficient, especially considering we can get a tool card. So we can get niche stuff like one-offs of Chestplate or, this Defiant Band or maybe even Muscle Bound. So I just really like Arven overall. Seems like a very solid addition. Then, of course, speaking of Defiant Band, we have it over here. Probably one of the only tools, I think, or the only tool that can actually buff your damage by plus 30. So that's obviously a huge modifier to be able to play in GLC. So as long as you let your opponent take the first KO, you can come in there with Defiant Band and then take a more efficient KO, I guess, and then get ahead in the game that way. So Defiant Band definitely opens up a lot of new strategies. And then Messagoza, just one string each player's turn, that player may flip a coin. If heads, that player may search your deck for a Pokemon, reveal it, and put them into your hand. Very, very good stadium, definite one-of, I think, in most of my GLC decks. And just a deck in general that just wants to be more consistent. Of course, there is a chance you won't be able to get a Pokemon, then your opponent will be able to find any Pokemon they want. But I think it's a risk worth taking in GLC just because of the amount of time most players have to set up their decks. So, yeah, I definitely really like Messagoza. Seems very strong. We also have Beach Corp that says the retreat cost of each basic is 1 color less. There is typically some GLC decks that like to build their deck around being able to pivot out basics that are designed to set up, like Mew from Celebrations or that Tatsugiri I just showed you. So I definitely think Beach Court is a very worthy stadium as well. And taking the number 1 spot is actually going to be another trainer. It's going to be Miriam. Shove up to 5 Pokemon into your discard pile from your discard pile into your deck, and then you get to draw 3 cards. Miriam is just a very efficient card overall, and I think the fact that you can just get back so many Pokemon this way, and then obviously have the effect of drawing 3 cards as well, even just having access to passive draw while also recycling just seems really, really strong in a format like GLC, so I'm definitely really a big fan of Miriam. But yeah, that's the end of the video. Thank you for watching. Let me know what you think about GLC moving into Scarlet and Violet. Definitely some interesting new cards. And yeah, it's been Emma Power, and thank you for watching.